Hi everyone, welcome to Bonnie Caroline Makes Cards. I have a cute spring or Easter card featuring Simon Says Stamps, Woodland Whimsy, and outline floral frame. This card begins by creating an effect called Bokeh, or some people pronounce it Bokeh. This was a popular effect that card makers used a few years ago, but I thought it would work perfectly with this pretty floral frame. For card makers, bokeh is a series of overlapping circles, but it is actually an effect that is borrowed from photography. Not that I know a lot about photography, but from what I've read, it is a quality that is achieved when an image is out of focus. They get these soft, pretty circles, much what we're trying to recreate in this background. This well-used stencil is one that I created myself. I simply took a piece of acetate and used my nesting circle dies and die cut various sizes of circles. To create this soft background, I'm using Distress Oxide inks, dried marigold, shaded lilac, spun sugar, and scattered straw. To create this effect, I like to begin with the largest circle. I have 4 colors, so I begin by stenciling 4 circles, one in each color. I work down through the sizes of the circles in this same manner. When applying the ink, I keep a pretty light touch. The ink is picked up with the blending brush and then tapped off on some paper towel. It is always easier to add more ink, difficult to remove it if it's too dark. When stenciling the larger circles, I applied slightly more pressure at the bottom and then lightened it up as I worked towards the top. I didn't worry about this with the small circles. When stenciling one size circle at a time and in each of the 4 colors, I can ensure that the background has a balanced appearance. Although it has that random look, the approach is not random at all. If it was, it wouldn't have that pleasing look to the eye. Another approach to bokeh is to begin with a soft inked background and then applying the circles, and you don't have to add quite so many. When I have worked through all the sizes of the circles with the exception of the smallest one, I do go back and stencil in some various sizes of circles in different colors to fill in the larger areas of white space. The bokeh background is finished up with the smallest circle. This time I'm working one color at a time, and I stencil in about 3 or 4 and make sure that they are spread out across the panel. I apply a little bit more pressure with these small circles so that they're sitting on top of the background. So all of the work is in the background and the rest of the card is very straightforward. White sheet foam and Nina Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock are die cut using the outline floral frame die. When working with fine die cuts that I want to stack, I like to use Tombow glue. When left to dry, it is tacky and repositionable. That makes the job of lining up these intricate dies a lot easier. For this card, I'm working with 2 images from the Woodland Whimsy stamp set, the cute bunny and a small bouquet of flowers. Working on Bristol Smooth cardstock, the bouquet is stamped with a combination of worn lipstick and twisted citron. My mini ink cubes are packed, and so I was working with full-size ink pads, which made it a little bit tricky and not perfect. The image was stamped and the color was pulled out with a water brush pen. The colors weren't exactly in the right place, but the image was small, it had a looser watercolor look, and it was fine. The bunny was first stamped with antique linen. Like before, the color was pulled out with my watercolor pen. I smooshed a little bit of worn lipstick onto my mat and picked that up and did the inside of the bunny's ears and the nose. The bunny was stamped again with frayed burlap. This time the color would be pulled out in the shadow areas. This is a quick way to get a watercolor look. The shadow areas were accentuated by smooshing the frayed burlap onto my mat, picking up that color and deepening those areas. Both images were fussy cut directly on the line. Next, the cardstock frame was stacked onto the foam one. The dry but tacky Tombow glue on the cardstock frame makes it easy to align these two frames. The die-cut sentiment Simon Says Stamps Bring Blessings was cut from both cardstock and foam. The frame was adhered to the bouquet background. Regular glue was used to stack this sentiment. These die cuts weren't so fine and it was easy to apply and align them. One of the little leaf branches had to be snipped off so that the sentiment could fit in at the top of the panel. I had anticipated that I would have to make some adjustments, so I didn't apply glue to those outer leaves. The foam back sentiment was adhered to the card. Both the bunny and the bouquet were foam backed. The bouquet was placed between the bunny's arms, and the bunny was attached to the card. Lots of iridescent sequins were placed on and around the frame. I'm a big fan of sparkle and dimension, and it would be a rare thing to see one of my cards without one of those two things. After I adhered the 100th sequin, the panel was attached to an A2 size card base of Nina Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock. I like to use a little bit of temporary adhesive to hold my card flat for both doing the finishing touches and for photographing. Yes, if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you will have guessed it. I'm topping up the sequins with Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew. I like using this method for a couple of reasons. Placing down the sequins first gives me some flexibility. It gives me an idea of what the overall look is going to be without that firm commitment. And equally as important, I love the overall look of the Morning Dew drops on sequins. They just look like beautiful jewels. And that wraps up this card with a pretty bouquet background featuring Simon Says Stamps, Woodland Whimsy, and outline floral frame. As always, I appreciate your visit, and I wish you a very happy Easter weekend.